Thanks, Felix. I think we'll go over next to some of the questions that are coming in on the Q&A. So someone else asked about, can you give some more information on the most appropriate engagement of the logistics section with the other sections from identifying the need until the delivery? I feel like maybe that's a similar question to the one that's just asked, but if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question, and thanks for the question. All the sections of the IMS have to be complementary, have to complement each other. And I would, as I said, without proper logistics, the response can be broken, or with adequate logistics, then the response can be well done. So some experience of collaboration, for instance, if the IMS, let's say take the operations section, they need, for instance, to do that surveillance, for instance. If they need surveillance or to test and trace the cases, then the diagnostics, the PPE, the cold chain equipment, all those needs that are needed for both surveillance and the laboratory needs will come to the section chief to anticipate their needs and work around the clock to avail them in a timely fashion and provide them in the right condition, in the right place, using all those rights I've provided. And as you've seen in most of the public institutions and public institutions, you also have to abide by the existing rules and regulations in acquiring all those things. So the logistics section doesn't work in silo, and that's why I said that question is fantastic. It's a very good question. It has to coordinate with the other sections to make sure that their needs are captured, budgeted for, planned for, and delivered to the right user in the right condition, the right place, at the right place. And the other part of the question was, the log section, logistics section. So it's critical. I've given just for the operations section. We need also to work with the admin and finance to make sure that the resources you are looking at are available, can be availed. If not, work with the section in question, or to determine what can be prioritized, or how can people move around the situation according to whether budget is available or the administrative arrangements are available at the time of need. So it's critical that the logistics section works in tandem and coordinate with the other sections for the response to be effective, to be efficient, and also lies with the incident command, the incident command to make sure that everything is coordinated and every detail is attended to. I would say just that briefly, but I invite any other panelists that may want to add something to come in. Over now.
Thanks, Felix. Ali, Senia, do you have anything to add to that?
Nothing more to add from my end, Emily.
Thanks, Senia.
Yeah.
Okay, great. One of the questions that I think is, I don't know if there is an answer to it, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there information systems that help with logistics management within the EOC?
Yes, thanks for the question. It's a good question. And as we said, managing data is part and a critical part of good logistics. So there are many systems, and different EOCs use different logistics, information systems. The important thing is to have to know that the information has to be managed, and the electronic management has proved to be the better. So to put up names of the logistics instruments, but you may be familiar with what you call PHEOC or PHEOC, for instance. There are other LMIS, many systems, and they provide fantastic support to the logisticians when properly used to inform decisions and to provide timely data to the decision making during the outbreak response or preparedness. I may say I may just comment on that, but if there is any addition, is welcome.
Thanks, Felix. Yes, I think it's as you say, there are several electronic systems I'm sure that are available that people can use or do use, but I guess it's around sort of thinking about what it is you need to use it for, and making sure that the system itself is effectively solving the issues or whatever that you have within the logistics and supply chain. Ali, I don't know if you wanted to ask any of these specific questions, if you wanted to pick one from the Q&A that you wanted to ask, or if what was particularly pertinent for Felix.
Yes. So there was a question from the chat mentioning that, okay, in the largest region, I think, meaning Africa, was how do we supply the supply chain? How do you manage it? How do you manage the supply chain? Is a regional EOC enough in that complex setting or not? Over.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a good question as well. So, as I said, countries, regions, continents, sometimes they have to work together to deliver a proper response. I assume that the question was related to COVID-19 pandemic, where because that one has hit the whole world, and I think in Africa, I know in Africa, all the 55 member states of the African Union have been hit by the pandemic. So if an arrangement can be made at a subnational level, at a provincial level, and be organized so that the coordination at a country level is easier, that move is welcome. Same thing, if for instance, the African Union has 5 regions to pool and to pool their needs and manage their supply chains together as a block, then union makes strength. So that will be a positive and a recommendable move as well. Now, this is why I mentioned the African Medical Supplies Platform at a continental level. For instance, a country like the Gambia or a country like Senegal may want to procure 1 million test kits for COVID-19. But the manufacturer will say, no, the minimum order quantity is 10 million. Then it will be up to the bloc, if there is such an organization or such an MOU say like that, or such an arrangement that 10 million may be 1 million be given to the Gambia, 5 million to Senegal, then maybe other 3 million. That would be a fantastic move and would ease the logistics for the logisticians in the different countries. So this is an example of how regional integration or regional cooperation or collaboration can be very key in the supply chain management or logistics. It's a move we are trying to put across the continent, but it goes step by step. And when we see what WAHO is doing in the Western Africa, or what EAC is doing in the Eastern Africa, or what ECOWAS is doing in the it's when we move as a region or a block, then the logistics section behind moves with the what's going in the region. When we have regional collaboration more efficient. Over.
Thanks, Felix. I think we have quite a few, there's about 3 hands up. So I'll just go over to taking a few people off mute. So we have Juma Musimi. If you're able to unmute yourself. Juma, go ahead with your question.
My question is a bit extensive. And I'm about, is there any international law, for example, will allow drugs to be transported? Like I think by drugs, when I talk of drugs, I mean medicines to require the people, for example, so that in the ports or airports, there's a free clearance. It has been in the news that there are some drugs which have been logged or which has been not released in a port, for example. And those drugs are for vulnerable people, like in HIV/AIDS, for example. So now, in as much as we're talking of logistics and the logistical matters as far as the drugs is concerned, now, how serious is this? When people who need some drugs like HIV/AIDS patients, and the drugs have been not been released in a port. So do you have an international body that can do that clearance, or that is linked to the logistical and the logistic matters? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. It's really an important question. There are international laws that regulate commerce and the movement of goods across the globe. So I think you may be familiar of what we call Incoterms, for instance. And when goods move from a place to another, we did not dig deeper to the details, but there are many documents that go with over consignment. So the laws regulate what needs to be availed, and it provides details of those logistics arrangements, depending of whether things move by air, by sea, by land, and whether things move from a country to another, or from a so there are laws. That's one. Then to the question, when a consignment is held in a port, in a seaport or an airport, this may be an issue could be something related to these laws that I'm referring to. Now, there are some humanitarian arrangements. An example is this COVID-19 pandemic, where we've seen some waivers and some pre-clearance of goods at the ports. So because of the criticality and the urgency of the needs, when these documents are sent in advance, then countries or customs offices were able to give the pre-clearance and a quick check of the consignments and move. And this has to be something to be advocated for, because as you said, sometimes these commodities are saving lives. So if you delay it in a port, then it could be life lost or lives lost because of that move, that action. So I don't know the specific examples on what happened in which country and what were the reasons, but normally what we advocate for and what we discuss these logistics matters with the wide audience is to make sure that all those details are put in place well in advance so that the response is not hampered because of a logistics arrangement that has not been thought beforehand, and then we may lose lives, or we may be it might be difficult to contain an outbreak or respond to an event. So briefly, I would put those comments like those, but as I always said, if fellow panelists or any other person who may want to comment, I submit for now.
Thank you. Senia, did you have any of the questions out of the Q&A that you wanted to, that you think could particularly?
Yes, there is one question which is I felt important. In your presentation, you mentioned the role of the medical unit, which takes care of the health of staff, and you know, there is also a safety officer role under the management section. So can you clarify in terms of the roles and responsibilities between the two, and the difference in functions?
Yeah, thank you very much. I remember we discussed the medical unit. The medical unit was thought in that sense. So you have people that have been sent to a country, and you know that the health system in the country, you're deploying your experts, your responders is weak. It's up to the logistics. It was thought that logistics section would plan ahead of those logistics. If, for instance, a responder gets to the field, then gets sick. So something has to be staged and put up so that it can get treated, for instance, or evacuated. So these are the responsibilities we put. It's a debatable slide, but when you're planning for a medical emergency, for instance, you as a logistician, you need to plan to say, so if I've seen in some charts, people talking about security incidents. If someone, if there is security on that region, or someone gets sick and has to urgently get evacuated, these are the roles a medical, on the logistics side, we are looking at making sure that the medical part of the response is planned for. Now we are thinking of a small clinic, for instance, for the responders, putting a hospital and other medical facilities, so that if someone is injured or if someone gets sick on the field, can get treated. But it all goes into the broader context. It will depend on the type of the event we are talking about, the type of incident or the outbreak we're trying to contain. But it becomes to the logistician, to the logistics section, to plan for these eventualities. And as you said, lies with the incident manager to make sure that all those details are planned for. If there is a better plan for the medical unit to be discussed and provided, well and good. But it's up to the logistics section to the incident manager and plan for those eventualities